Hey guys, so in this video, I want to talk about kind of a new niche site experiment that I've been running over the past 6 weeks or so. And what I'm trying to test here is the importance of content velocity, or how much content you publish on your site. How does it affect your rankings, your traffic, and your growth with Google? So in this video, I'm going to talk about how I published 112 articles over a 6-week period of time on a fresh domain. And again, it's still very early on, but I want to talk about the results and kind of what I've learned from this experiment. All right, so just to give a little background on this project, I registered a brand new fresh domain kind of in the middle of April, maybe a little earlier than that, in a niche that I'm somewhat interested in. Not that that matters, because I'm outsourcing all of the content, which I'll talk about in a second. But I did my niche research, and this is not what I would call an easy niche or even a low competition niche. I'd call it more medium competition. But what I noticed in this specific niche is that these websites in the DR30s, maybe even DR40s, were getting tons of traffic. They're all in Mediavine. And the one thing I noticed is that they all have tons of content. Like the smallest site in this niche had 500 articles. The bigger ones had 2,000 plus articles, right? And the content, frankly, was not that good. So I had an idea, and again, more of an experiment. What if I went out and tried to create a site in the same niche and just creating and publishing content as fast as possible? What would the early growth stages look like in Google? Now, to be clear, I outsourced, again, all of the content with a very low cost agency. I'm not going to specifically name any names here because that's not important, but I did not spend a lot of money on the content, per article or a per word basis. So the quality of the content I would describe as pretty good, right? Solid content. It's not going to win any awards. It's not 10-cent plus per word content. It's solid content. But the theory here was, if I could publish a lot of it, right, is volume actually more important than quality? I'm not ready to make that statement yet, but the volume of content, I think, with niche sites now is equally as important as the quality of your content, right? With a lot of niches, that can be a strategy where it's just a lot of pretty good content. Going after low competition keywords can be enough to get you into a Mediavine or an AdThrive. So again, the results are very early, but let me just show you kind of what I've learned so far with the analytics and metrics that I've been tracking. All right, let's first talk about keyword tracking, right? So every time I hit publish on a new article, I keep track of that main keyword and where it's ranking in Google. So this is just a screenshot inside of my Ahrefs account showing the 112 keywords. Obviously, I have the keywords blocked out, but I thought it was interesting, and I looked at this data this morning. So out of the 112 articles that we've published, again, in 6 weeks on a brand new domain, 26 of them are ranking in the top 20, or on the first or second page of Google. Here you can see, 6 or 7 of them that are ranking in the top 12. So this content velocity, I don't know if it's playing a role in it or if the keywords are just really that easy, but I don't think that they are, because I've obviously done the keyword research. But to get 26 of these articles ranking on page 1 or page 2 on a brand new domain in 6 weeks is very interesting to me. To me, it's a really good sign to keep going with the content. And again, you can see here some of the articles that are ranking in the top 5, the top 10, or the top 12, just to show you my Ahrefs screenshot. But again, I'm keeping track, obviously, of each main keyword for each article. 26 of the 112 are already on page 2. And a lot of these aren't even indexed yet, because I just published quite a few of them in the last couple of days. But I think the early signs with the ranking in Google is a great sign. And again, I'm going to continue moving forward with the content, in part based on how the keywords are ranking in Google so far. All right, the second metric that I like to track, and this is especially true of a brand new niche site, right? Because we're not going to get a lot of traffic in the first couple of months, right? We're going to have a handful of visitors, maybe a little bit more than that. So it's really hard to tell the progress on your site in terms of raw page views or raw sessions. So for that reason, I really like to track total impressions, which is a metric you can find in Google Search Console. This is basically telling you how many times did your website appear in a Google search, right? Whether that was on page 1 or page 2 or page 3. But what I like about this is that we get a lot more data, right? So you can see the total impressions, and this is the lifetime of the site. You can see I installed Search Console around April 11th over here, and Google kind of started tracking it, about April 20th. But you can see the trend line that I drew on here that's really skyrocketing up. Again, 6 weeks onto this site, and we're now getting about 3,000 impressions every day, right? The traffic is obviously trailing behind. There's not a lot of traffic. I'll talk about that on the next screenshot, but I like to track the impressions, and I love the trend line of the impressions for this site. Again, it's too early to really get all of those page views that we're looking at, but in terms of impressions for a 6-week-old site, I love where this is trending. All right, so even though there isn't a lot of page views or sessions, I thought I'd pull up this screenshot as well. So again, this is kind of the history of the site mid-April around here when I installed Google Analytics, and you can see there's been 959 sessions over 6 weeks, which it's really hard to kind of make sense of that data. What I do find interesting, and you'll see this spike here, this is Google Discover traffic. So this other blue line here that kind of peaks up here. So one day just from Google Discover, we had 200 visits. I don't really know what to make of that. Google Discover is kind of a separate beast with Google, but I thought the fact that it was showing this brand new domain in Google Discover so quickly, right, was a pretty good sign. You can see the organic traffic also peaking up here. Now we're at a point where it's 30 to 40 visitors organic from Google search. Again, 6 weeks into a site, I think is a great sign. So over time, hopefully this trend line will obviously go up as well. So again, there's not a lot of data, especially with a new site, to keep track of, but I do like tracking keywords in Ahrefs and impressions in Search Console with a new domain. That can give us an idea on how well we're doing. That said, 6 weeks is nothing, right? In terms of a new site with Google, talk to me when it's at 6 months, but I thought it was worth doing a video on this just because of the volume of content, right? 112 articles in 6 weeks, I think is playing a role. It's always impossible to determine exactly what is working well or not working well with the site, but I'm going to continue on publishing at a pretty high rate here. We're roughly now on pace about 80 articles every month, right? So 2, 3, 4 months down the line, we're going to have a library of content. And as that content volume grows and the age of the domain grows, I'm very curious to see how this site is performing, let's say 6 months from now, and hopefully I'll plan to do another video update on that. Do me a favor, if you like this video, let me know, pop a comment below, and I'll talk to you guys later.